Possibile iniziare ad appendere?
Sì,
non
sì.
No,
È finito. È il lavoro da fare è qui.
Benissimo. Okay, so we hang the pictures. Just hang the pictures. Hang them and put plastic over them. To be an artist, to be a photographer, you have to nurture the things that most people discard. You have to keep them alive in order to tap them. That should be more dramatic. It's been important to me my whole life not to let go of any of the things that most people would throw in the ash can. I have to be in touch with my fragility, with the man in me and the woman in me, the child in me, the grandfather in me. Open it up more. All these things, they have to be kept alive. I think I do photograph what I'm afraid of. I think I have photographed what I was afraid of. Things that I couldn't deal with without the camera. My father's death, madness. But when I was young, women, I didn't understand. It gave me a sort of control over the situation that was legitimate because good work was being done. And by photographing what I was afraid of or what I was interested in, I explored and learned and laid the ghost. It got out of my system and onto the page.
Major funding for this program was provided by American Express, celebrating the world of creativity through American masters. The National Endowment for the Arts, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, and by annual financial support from viewers like you. Additional funding was provided by the following.
Images are fast replacing words as our primary language. They define our ideas of beauty, truth, and history. In our age, the photographer, not the philosopher, is king. By the 1950s, Richard Avedon emerged as fashion photography's brightest star. Since then, he has proved endlessly protean, tacking unpredictably from commerce to art and back again. Dominating one, challenging the other, and changing the rules of both. Today, his images are everywhere. Some have become iconic in our culture. Avedon, along with Irving Penn, has forever altered the terms of photographic portraiture. Penn gently, intently, Avedon radically and fiercely. He has changed the way we think about celebrity, showing its glitter but also its terrors. Few people refuse the validation of his portrait. It's the final recognition. And like others before him, Avedon has sought out the people we would forget. He went into the streets of Italy and Harlem, into mental institutions. He went to Vietnam, to the civil rights battles in the South, always following his political concerns. But he felt he couldn't compete with the great documentary photographers, Helen Levitt, Lisette Modell, Walker Evans. The found image couldn't satisfy him. He wanted to be a creator, not an observer. He has had major exhibitions in museums and galleries throughout the world. He's become one of the richest, most celebrated photographers ever, and one of the most controversial.
Thank you. Have you seen the show yet? Yes. Thank you.
Avedon has created controversy throughout his whole career.
He is not subtle.
He is a commercial photographer and an art photographer.
Bam.
And the twain
Here
were
it
not
is.
really allowed to meet.
And what do you think? You like it? You don't like it? It doesn't really matter.
He
to
is
me.
our Matthew Brady.
It just
He is the
glimmers into that
repository
extreme.
of the public personas of the century. Really.
Overkill, it's caricatural, everything grimaces.
I think he's a mortician with a real lack of compassion.
Power, energy. Energy more than anything else. Energy.
I don't know. I think he loves all these people a lot. You know, he's paying them a tremendous amount of attention.
Reality's the great collaborator. He's struggling against it.
Nobody has lasted as long as he
has a sort of sweep of the culture over a series of decades through a series of classes There's only one person who's been doing
He seems
it.
to have everything. He seems to be rich, good-looking, makes
But
a
he's
lot
just
of money.
in your face all the time. You
Lives
don't get
in
a
a
choice.
magical world. Is a fine artist. I think it's envy. I think
He's
a
so
lot of it is
over-emphatic,
envy.
as if we won't pick up any subtle nuance of character or openness of disclosure.
And he gets the nuances of character on a gut level with an extraordinary acuity.
I think he touches some kind of nerve.
Compassion and a heartlessness of observation.
His preoccupation with old age is a way of denying that it will ever happen to him, and I think ultimately a way of denying death.
Somebody who says, look, it's crazy. It's madness.
He ultimately said, I am in control.
It's wonderful. That's what an artist should be. He should prevail.
I think those pictures will live for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years.
In the summer of 1994, Richard Avedon went back to Paris to shoot the last 100 years of French fashion.
Fashion is one of the richest expressions of human desires, ambitions, needs, frailty, insecurity, security. Yes, beautiful. What we wear is an indication of our sense of ourselves. It's a gift. Fashion has been in all art history. Look at the Velasquez, look at the Goyas, look what they're wearing in the Whistlers. And what they're wearing is fashion. It's just staggering, Stephanie. Yeah, oh my God. I mean, that's it.
In many ways, Paris is where it all began for Avedon. It was 1946. World War II was just over when he arrived.
We'd just come out of a terrible, the worst time. Darkest dark that had ever been. Evilest evil that had ever happened. And here were these pictures in the city of lying, you know, all of these people for whom the war was over, way over, never happened, gone, not talking about it.
Harper's Bazaar and Vogue eagerly took part in the first post-war stirrings in French couture. Covering the new collections was the gifted young photographer, Richard Avedon.
I was so young. I didn't know anything. I hadn't been anywhere. And was thrust forward by the editors of Harper's Bazaar. There was a mandate from Carmel Snow to help the French economy by bringing back the glamour of pre-war Paris. I was beside myself. I was in love with Doe. She was my model. You know, they made a movie called Funny Face, which had nothing to do with us, but a little bit about what happened. I remember riding in from the airport, and the taxi cabs in those days had open-top roofs. They were sort of square, and we'd buy a bottle of champagne in the airport and stand up all the way waiting to see the Eiffel Tower, drinking the champagne from the bottle, and there was no sleeping. You worked around the clock, and then you went out dancing. And then, of course, I worried. So after the dancing was over, I'd walk all night, worrying about the next pictures. There was the joy of discovery of everything French.
No one had ever seen anything like Avedon's pictures before. The streets seemed to burst off the page. Their vitality had tremendous shock value. In the 30s and 40s, fashion photography had been dominated by giants like Hoyningen Hunet, Cecil Beaton, Horst P. Horst, whose formal poses embodied the Art Deco tradition.
He changed the whole mood of fashion photography. Before him, every model posed. She became a statue. Whereas Dick, as I said, he participated. He was in the picture. And the way he moved with his Rolleiflex was as though he was dancing with you. And you would react, of course.
I wasn't without influence.